Welcome to In Search, where we make SEO small talk and we make it fun. Big, hot ticket items to discuss with a tinge of exclusive data. Is it a ranking factor? Recent performance says yes. How often do Explorer panels appear? What brings them up? A look at Google's entity relationship skills, plus full and always brilliant analysis of the week's news that matters most. I am your host, Morty Oberstein. I am joined by the ever so talented Jacqueline Harcum. What's new? How's life?
Life's great. My childhood self is in heaven right now, sitting here in front of a mic. I may not be belting out to my 90s top 40s music, but I guess SEO will do.
Well, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's a good substitute. Way to make do.
Yeah, you know, singing to my Britney Spears and NSYNC. Instead, we'll be discussing today's news.
Oh, well, that's good. Just so you know, I have a terrible, terrible cold. My eye is better from last week, but now I can't talk.
What's going to be next week?
I don't know.
Stay tuned and find out.
I don't want to know. So if I sound terrible, it's because I sound how I feel. Okay. Well, let's get right into it with a Rank Ranger data exclusive Explore panels. So what the heck is an Explore panel? Some of you may refer to this as a featured panel, but it's an Explore panel because that's what Google has labeled it in the HTML. I still haven't told you what it is, though, have I?
No, you haven't told me anything yet.
Right. So it's a relatively recent feature that Google's added. It shows up to the right of the organic results. So it looks very much like a knowledge panel. It feels like a knowledge panel. It even smells like a knowledge panel, but it sure don't taste like one because it has a longer summary that comes from a website that shows up on page 1 of the organic results, much like a featured snippet. So it's a featured snippet. No, I told you, it's like a knowledge panel. It's in the same place like a knowledge panel, and it looks like a knowledge panel. It's an Explore panel, and it shows on the SERP how often? Come on, guess.
I don't know, 10%?
That's high, 10%.
I don't know, I'm going to guess.
Off the top of your head. Nope, it shows on around 2.5% of all page 1 SERPs, desktop US. So 2.5% of all page 1 SERPs, desktop US, have the Explore panel. So let's get into what brings this bad boy up. And it's a lot of products. For example, at the time of this recording, the keyword Samsung Blu-ray player brings up the Explore panel. Now, if it doesn't bring it up for you, 1, you have to be in the US. 2, this is a few days after I've looked it up, and it could be that Google has changed things up. So if it's, oh, wait, Morty, it's not there. It's Google probably removed it. I hope it's still there, so I don't have to go through this whole rigmarole of explaining why it's not there. So hopefully it's still there when you search for it yourself. But either way, the keyword Samsung Blu-ray player brought it up for me. And, well, let's think about it like this, okay? What site do you think ranks number 1 for the keyword Samsung Blu-ray player?
Samsung.com.
Right. And what site is in the Explore panel?
Samsung.com.
No. Best Buy.
What?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know.
Neither do I, because that makes no sense.
No.
Yeah. That's why. It's exactly why I brought this case up. It's a very strange case where in the Explore panel, Samsung doesn't appear for their own product. Best Buy does. So note that. All right. So there's another panel that I noticed as well, and let's play a little bit of a game, I guess. Okay. I'm gonna give you some keywords that brought up the Explore panel, and you tell me the common theme behind them. Are you ready?
Yeah. I'm
okay.
ready.
Keyword number 1, JFK space race. Keyword number 2, Madonna Kabbalah. Keyword number 3, Abraham Lincoln signature. And finally, keyword number 4, Mark Twain letters. What's the theme here?
Seriously? I don't know. They're all public figures? I have no idea.
I guess, right? They're all public figures.
Yeah.
Some more notable than others, I guess. Mark Twain in this world is probably not as noticeable as Madonna, but okay. So what I think is going on, yeah, okay, they are all public figures, but that's not really what's bringing them up because they should all show up in knowledge panels.
Right.
Okay, so what I think is going on here is like this. You have an entity, like you have JFK, you have Lincoln, and then you have a qualifier of sorts, a specific sliver or moment of time within the entity. All right, let me show you. How many kids did John F. Kennedy have?
3.
3? That's pretty good. Did you know, by the way, I used to be a history teacher?
No way. That's awesome. I know.
I used to teach English and history in the inner city of Baltimore. That was always fun. Okay.
I can imagine.
So, no. I actually, It was the most meaningful job I've ever done in my entire life. I highly recommend it, but it is not easy. Okay, so JFK did have 3 kids.
Oh, nice.
Yep. One baby. He had a baby who died, I think, like 30 days after being born, unfortunately.
Okay.
And why am I telling you this tragic news? Not to depress you, but because if you search for Kennedy baby, you get an Explore panel that links to a New York Times article. And why don't you get a featured snippet? Because it's an entity, right? It's Kennedy baby. But why don't you get a knowledge panel? Because it's a news story, not an entity. So most searchers are not going to query this to learn about this baby as an entity. Why are you searching for this? Because you're interested in the Kennedy's life. You're interested in this one snapshot of JFK's life. So what happens is, Google shows you the Explore panel with a link to the New York Times story about this baby's unfortunate death because it knows it's trying to fill this gap between feature snippet and knowledge panel. We're not dealing with an entity per se. That's not what the searcher's looking for. We're not looking for information per se because it does relate to an entity in a larger way. Mm-hmm. So this sort of snapshot, this sort of sliver, this sort of moment in time within the entity is where I see Google using the Explore panel. All right, so we're going to keep things in-house. This week I put out a blog post called Has AMP Hit a Wall? Where I asked, has AMP hit a wall? And that was the whole post. I just asked, has AMP hit a wall?
Morty recently wrote a blog post discussing how AMP was expected to be the next big thing and the significant obstacles it faced that resulted in AMP sinking before it even got to swim. Right,
so there's a lot of interesting data in this one. Thank you for that wonderful summary.
You're welcome.
So first off, you have AMP in organic results. The first really interesting thing here is you have AMP spiking in the news results. AMP dominates news results. We all know that, okay? But then you have AMP in organic results, and they hovered around 25% of all page 1 SERPs contain at least one organic AMP result, and the data hovered there for like 2.5 years, okay? It never got past 25%. You never had 25% of page 1 SERPs, more than that, having an organic AMP result on the page. It's like my family as a kid compared to now. No real growth. That was terrible. My parents aren't listening. Then boom, right? You jump to 35% in August. That, by the way, my best John Madden impersonation. Boom.
Is that another sports guy?
Yeah.
Oh, God, this better not turn into another one of your sports rants.
No, it won't. It won't. Okay, that's fair.
Good, we'll be here all day.
Sorry, folks. Okay, anyway. In August of 2018, AMP jumps 10%. It jumps 10 percentage points, rather. Okay, it goes from showing organically on 25% of page 1 SERPs, of having at least one organic AMP result on 25% of all page 1 SERPs, to 38%. Wow. Except, I have a 2-year-old who does that. He goes, wow. But for everything, though. Like, here's the milk. Wow. Except the average number of AMP results on the page barely changes. In other words, so now you have 38 or so % of all page 1 SERPs contain at least one organic AMP result. Obviously, this is on mobile, right? But the average number of AMP results showing on these pages where you do have AMP has barely changed. And how does that make any sense?
I have no idea.
Yeah, because it doesn't, okay? Well, it does if you think about it a little bit. It means, okay, there's more AMP, or rather there's more SERPs that contain AMP, but not necessarily more AMP sites or more sites that have adopted AMP. All right, so think about it like this. eBay. We all know eBay, right?
Yeah.
We all love eBay.
Of course.
Okay. eBay adopts AMP. Okay, so all these thousands, millions, gazillions, I think it's a couple million pages are AMP. Right, so there's more AMP pages available for more queries. Now think about it like this. You do a search, and eBay shows up in the result. For whatever product you're researching, whatever product you search for, eBay shows up, and you have one AMP result, or maybe two if eBay has more than one URL on the page. But unless more sites adopt AMP, you're not going to have more. You'll have more SERPs that now have one AMP result on it, but you're not going to have a jump in the number of AMP results on that page where AMP now shows up. So let's say, for argument's sake, you do a search for used basketball. Crazy thing to order from eBay, right? Yeah. But now that query will produce an AMP result. It'll produce, for argument's sake, 1. So the average hasn't really gone up. If the average, assuming, is around 1, eBay adopting AMP is not going to jump that average up anymore. If Amazon now adopts AMP, or Target, or Walmart, so the same queries will now bring up more AMP results. Right. But if one site like eBay does it, you'll have more sites that now show up. You'll have more SERPs that have AMP, but not more sites on the page that are AMP. Okay, a little bit confusing, but that's what it is.
Yeah.
Okay. So where do we go from here? What's going on here? And this is why I think AMP is a ranking factor. Oh yeah, controversy. Okay, official disclaimer. Rank Ranger does not officially believe AMP is a ranking factor, nor does it endorse Morty's thoughts here or anywhere, any way, shape, or form. Thank you, Rank Ranger. Seriously, though, it's been a bit of a debate over here. Some of us think AMP is a ranking factor. Some of us think that AMP is not a ranking factor. Jacqueline, AMP a ranking factor?
I don't know.
Quick. Yes, no.
Yes.
Yes, great. Thank you for being with me. So these are just my thoughts. This is not the official Rank Ranger opinion on AMP and ranking factors. But why do I think AMP is a ranking factor? Well, after 2 years, okay, AMP spikes twice. Once on August 22nd and once more on on September 6th. That's how we get this 38%. Guess what else happened on those 2 days? Guess what else happened, Jacqueline, on August 22nd and on September 6th?
I don't know, Morty. You tell me.
Oh, Google updates. That's what happened. So, super coincidence. AMP goes nowhere for 2 years, and all of a sudden, there are 2 updates. She's laughing at me. There are 2 updates. And all of a sudden, AMP shifts up along with these 2 updates. Oh, by the way, in October, we saw AMP take a little bit of a slight shift downwards, like my voice. And now it's at about 32%. So it went from showing on 37% of all page 1 SERPs on mobile to now about 33% of all page 1 SERPs on mobile have at least one AMP result. Guess what happened on that same day that AMP took a slight downturn?
I don't know. Tell me again.
I'll tell you again. Update! Another Google update, okay? So based off seeing this, in my mind, AMP is a ranking factor. It's too much of a coincidence that after going nowhere for 2 freaking years, all of a sudden it spikes up twice with 2 different Google updates, and then it goes down a little bit with another Google update. Tell me AMP is not a ranking factor. Tell me.
AMP is not a ranking
factor. No, I didn't literally mean to tell me. It's rhetorical. Okay, but wait, there's more. Remember when I said the average number of AMP results on the SERPs where organic AMP results show up did not see an uptick? Of course you do. That was like 30 seconds ago. Well, if AMP is a ranking factor, that makes total sense, okay? Why are there more AMP sites on page 1? Because Google boosted the importance of AMP as a ranking factor, and sites that were not on page 1 flew up to page 1. And since you don't have any new sites, not any, I'm speaking hyperbolically, of course, since you don't have any new sites adopting AMP, the average number of AMP sites on the page when organic AMP results do show up to begin with, drum roll, skip the drum roll, stay the same. Nothing. Okay? Now, by the way, this would be an excellent time. This is an excellent time to introduce our poll question.
Our poll question today is, do you think AMP is ranking factor, yes or no?
Is AMP a ranking factor, yes or no? That is your poll question for today.
It is.
And by the way, yes, instead of putting this poll question on Twitter, guess how long a poll question lasts on Twitter? 24 hours. And you might be listening to this podcast 3 or 4 days after we publish the podcast. So that would be annoying to do. So what I'm going to do is put a Google Doc out there where you can submit your answers. So look for it where? On the Rank Ranger Twitter account, there'll be multiple posts with this link to the Google Doc where you can submit your answer to, is AMP a ranking factor? Is AMP not a ranking factor? It'll be on my Twitter handle, at Morty Oberstein. It'll be on Jacqueline's, I'm assuming, right? You're going to tweet it out?
Yes. If you want to hear what I have to say, follow me at JackHark18.
Ooh, nice plug for yourself there.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm also going to include the link to the survey on the blog post that we push out for the podcast. So all you really have to do is head over to the Rank Ranger blog post. Find the recent blog post for the recent podcast. Click open the article, and at the bottom of the page there will be the link to the Google Doc where you can submit your answer to our poll question, which once again is,
do you think AMP is a ranking factor, yes or no?
And bonus, if you tell us yes or no, you can also tell us why you think that. I will leave a spot open where you can explain why you think AMP is or is not a ranking factor. So leave your name, maybe your Twitter handle, maybe your company name, and we'll showcase some of your responses next week and give you a big old shout out. So how does that sound?
Sounds good to me.
And on to the news. Take it away.
Well, we knew this was coming, so it's not such a shock, But now if you go to google.com on your mobile phone, you'll find that below the search boxes are news stories, sports scores, and other related topics that Google thinks you may be interested in without even searching for those things. Discover, formerly known as Google Feed, is now on the mobile Google homepage.
I'm telling you, as I sip my coffee, because my throat is killing me. So I apologize for that. I'm telling you, by the way, okay? So Google's moving at breakneck speed with these 20th anniversary updates. Feed, which is now Discover, moving over to the mobile SERP was one of those announcements that Google made a couple of weeks ago at their 20th anniversary birthday bash, whatever you want to call it. And how many times, by the way, have you seen Google will announce something and then delay it and delay it and delay it? Mobile first, for example, right? But not here. Why? Because here, with these announcements, it lets Google be a SERP guide. See my post. I am not afraid to plug myself without any hesitation. I wrote a whole post about this, okay? So it's another case where Google is trying to nudge users to certain pages. For example, I will just tell you how I personally experienced Discover. I get lost with this one. It's like, where you go to YouTube, right? And you just, you're there for a reason. You're there to find something, how to fix your washing machine, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But instead you see this whole feed of awesome videos, like, I don't know, like a top 10 Sonny and Cher moments, right? And you can't stop from clicking on that. I can never stop that.
3 hours.
Sonny and Cher.
Yep.
Okay? And you spend the next, I lock the door. The kids are banging at the door to get in. I'm like, no, I'm watching YouTube. And you get lost there, and then you realize, wait a second. What did I come here to search for?
How did I just spend the last
what happened to my life? I'm now on Social Security.
Yep.
I don't know what happened in the last 35 years. It's the same thing. Because you head over to the Google homepage, you want to find, I don't know, a new pocket protector, right? But you get lost in all the new Star Trek content that Discover leaves for you. Get it? Discover, Star Trek Discovery. I grew up on Star Trek. My grandparents were like enormous Star Trek fans. I still watch. I was just watching. I think it was like the first episode of season 2 or season 3 of season 2 of the original Star Trek episodes the other night.
Well, that's adorable.
Yeah, thank you. I am not embarrassed.
No.
I've never been to my brother's been to a convention. Yeah, that's not my thing. Anyway, so you get stuck in so much content because Google knows what you want to see because it's pulling in content to show on the mobile homepage in the new Discover feed based upon your search history. So all the things you want to see are right there, and before you ever get to a search, you're kind of lost in all this content for hours and hours and hours. It literally happens to me all the time. Oh, wow, check this out. There's a new story on this new, I don't know, this NFL player. Great. So I totally forget my search, and I head over to whatever article Google's showing me. Okay, story number 2.
All right. Google has made a big adjustment to its hotel listings. Aside from a more visual look, you can now click inside the local finder on desktop, and it brings up a completely separate page that is geared towards hotel bookings. This is definitely going to impact the travel sites who will probably just increase their Google ad spread.
Oh my God.
Sure.
Like, oh my God, this is crazy.
Yeah.
Okay? Literally for the last
LMJ.
year. Google has been pushing these like heavy hotel insights it's amazing, each and every month, okay? So in this case, a lot of the mobile elements related to hotels now show up on the desktop SERP. And I think that's really the kicker here, that it's on desktop. Because I will research something on mobile. I personally will never buy something on mobile. I want to be able to have that full page experience where I can easily navigate. But now that Google's done this, it's sort of made booking a hotel very preferable on desktop.
Yeah.
Okay, so like how? So what it did here, that was good English, Morty. What it did here is that when you click on a hotel listing, so now you get directed to a whole new page, and a new tab opens up with a new page that presents tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of hotel insights, and most of them are based on the mobile version. For example, you have you have information on the things around the hotel, attractions, transportation options, airports, all that kind of stuff. It's a little carousel that shows up on desktop. That was on mobile for a while, okay? And it's brilliant. I'm going to ramble on here a little bit, so stay with me. But it's brilliant, and you really have to admire how well Google thinks these things out. By taking the user to a new tab, what's the upshot of that?
I don't know.
Okay, why did Google do that? Because Google knows that it's a search engine. And when you're doing a search, you want to find a listing. You're not necessarily in the buy mentality. You're in the search mentality, right? Okay, now you get bumped over by clicking on a hotel listing to a brand new page that's basically geared towards hotel insights, centered around booking the hotel. Okay, so whereas before you were in the search world, users don't necessarily have the mindset of booking. But now, I'm in a new page. It's dedicated to booking. The psychological environment that I'm in is now booking, right?
Yeah.
So I'm much more likely to think about booking now that my mentality itself is already in booking, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. I agree with you. Beware. Sites beware. Booking sites beware. Beware to spend a heck of a lot more
No, seriously.
on ads that show up in the Google's hotel listings. Absolutely.
It's worth it, though.
Onwards.
Onwards, despite the recent study from Yoast that shows that Google often uses website content and not the actual little snippet you wrote inside the meta description, Google's John Mueller recently said on Twitter that it is best not to leave your meta description blank. He suggested that you fill them out because you know your content best. What are your thoughts?
Ooh, that's really interesting. Okay, so we
Yeah.
have this tool. It's called the SEO Monitor. Okay, so check it out. But one of the things you can see on the SEO Monitor, our tool, the SEO Monitor, I'll say it a million times over. I hope I get a raise. Is that you can see if your site is showing the meta description that you wrote or the one that Google conjured up for you. Okay, so this is not a hard stat. I didn't officially research this, and 25% of that. But there was a post this is purely anecdotal. There was a post I was writing a little while ago, and I wanted to use a case where it wasn't the meta description that Google created for you, but it was the meta description the site wrote for itself, and I had a really, really hard time finding it. So it's really interesting. I agree. You should definitely spend the time to write up your meta descriptions.
Yeah.
But I kind of confirmed the Yoast study.
Really?
Yeah, I've seen it. I mean, again, anecdotally,
I haven't seen it.
that there are a lot of meta descriptions that are not showing up that are your own. Most of them are Google's. All right. It is what it is. Obviously, good advice. If Google says to do it, who am I to argue? I think it's a good idea.
With Google's changes to its AdSense policy that now requires every news site to go through a verification process if they want to display ads, AdSense publishers now have to add each individual site to their account, and each one then needs to go through 2 verification processes.
Yeah. In a world where security is so important
Seriously.
and ad quality is so important, in a world where sites showing the ads is so important to whether or not users think you're spammy or not, this move makes sense.
Yeah.
You should. I know everyone's going, oh, I have to now verify.
I think it's a great idea.
This is good.
Honestly.
This is good. You don't want your ads showing up
No.
on. There was a recent study that came out last week, right? I think
Yeah.
it was on either Search Engine Land or Marketing Land, right? They show statistically, we all knew this, but statistically speaking,
I think
what happens?
30% of people were disappointed.
Right, where your ads show up next to some really, really gnarly content.
I like that.
Right, that's a good
Yeah,
word.
that's
You're from
good.
California,
I know,
so
I
yeah.
was going to say this is like Malibu talk.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm a hardcore New Yorker, so that's the last time I'm going to say gnarly. Yeah, so you want this. You don't want your content
Yeah.
showing up to some weirdly. I mean, there was I don't know. My timelines are always messed up. I'm not good with dates, but it was a while ago, maybe a year, 2 years ago, not 3. That's for sure. definitely 2 or less. Where the Guardian freaked out. Right, the Guardian went crazy. Their YouTube ads are showing up with next to some weird content, and they pulled all their YouTube ads.
Makes sense. You don't
Yeah.
want to be associated with bad ads.
Okay, so let's kick it up a notch and get to some really technical content from the great Bill Slawski. So I found this great article for our content of the week. From Mr. Google Patent himself, Bill Slawski, where he does this really fascinating piece on how Google fills in its knowledge panel info, meaning how does Google stay up to date? So say this, the CEO of a company leaves and a new one comes in. So how does Google know to change the knowledge panel to update it with the new CEO's information? So Mr. Patent himself goes through it. All the patents that Google has that would show that they can automatically identify when something is missing. So what happens is Google, I'm not going to go into the nitty gritty of it. You should definitely check out Bill's post. It's a great post. It's not terribly long either. Google has, that was a weird sound. Google has a way of identifying where there's missing content. And what it does is it sort of generates its own question. In a nutshell, standing on one foot, what Google does is it generates its own question. It then searches for the answer, brings back that answer, and then fills in the knowledge panel automatically. What is it? Because Bill quotes, I think it was a Yahoo executive saying that, oh, yeah, it might be a couple of years ago saying this, like, we don't have any way of updating our knowledge panel automatically. So he's showing you Google does do it automatically and how they do it, which is really important. Like, say you have an election, right? And the U.S. election day is either a couple days away, or if you're listening to us after Tuesday, it's a couple of days previously. If you're listening to it on Tuesday, election day is today in the U.S. or a sports championship, right? Something that's constantly changing. So Google has a way now, not now, but we know through the patents how they do it, of updating the content automatically so that it's filled in without them having to do anything manually. Why am I talking about this?
I don't know. Tell us.
Okay, she does know because I told her before. She's just being nice. Okay, so the reason why I'm talking about is because Google is going about search a bit differently than it once was. Google sees things now in terms of relationships. For all you lonely folk out there, it's all about relationships. Google's now looking at things not based upon keywords, titles. I mean, I'm not saying that doesn't exist. It's not part of SEO. But Google is hyper-focused on relationships. And what's relevant to a user hinges on what Google sees in terms of these relationships. What in the world am I talking about? So take the new Knowledge Panel that Google announced at its 20th anniversary birthday bash extravaganza event. And so now you have these new or different tabs showing up for different knowledge panels. So if you do a search for one movie, you'll get certain tabs. If you do a search for another movie, you'll get different tabs in the knowledge panel. Okay, the example that Google gave was different dog breeds. Google showed us the new tabs that showed up for pugs. Pugs being the dog breed. I used to have a pug, by the way, when until I was 3. Yeah, I would cry when that dog died. It's a famous family story.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have an affinity to pugs.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, well, no, we're not going into this. I'm not going to cry in the air.
Okay, fine.
No.
Yes.
No, we're moving on. No, we're moving on. The dog is dead. We're moving. I'm not even gonna. I have a terrible. Remind me after we're on air. I'm not telling this. I am not telling this to you. If you want to email me, I'll tell you the story. I'm not telling it publicly.
I don't know if I want to hear.
Yeah, you don't. But I'm telling you anyway. It's a great story. Remind me later.
All right, I'll get a box of tissues.
It's all right. So basically, you have a knowledge panel for pugs, and you have your overview of all the fun things you need to know about pugs. You have another tab showing you similar dog breeds and a whole carousel of similar dog breeds. But now you have another tab that shows up that says, hey, you want to buy and adopt a pug? So what's going on? Google is now looking at this entity, in this case pugs, the best dog breed ever, and it knows what's topically relevant. Okay, what exists within the sphere of reality that is pug. Okay, in this case, it means buying and adopting a dog. So Google's able to understand an entity in all new ways and adjust what it shows you via search accordingly. The Explorer panel, by the way, is the same thing. And a nuanced understanding of the entity, we wouldn't even have the Explorer panel. So what Google is doing here is saying, this topic, this entity is out here. We're going to show you, you're doing a search related to an entity, great. This topic is connected to this entity. This topic is relevant to this entity. This topic is relevant to this entity. And what it's showing you is topical relevancy, or relationships between the topic and the entity. And as a brand new way, not a brand new way, it's evolved and it's more common and it's more prolific and it's more powerful than it ever was before. But it's a new era in search where the relationship between entities or the relationship between various topic matter and the nuanced differences make all the difference in what a user sees and doesn't see. Okay, that was really heavy.
Yes, seriously.
Yeah, all right. You're looking at me like, oh, come on, let's get through that. Well, being that it's heavy and being that I'm exhausted and my voice hurts, okay? Yeah. Let's lighten things up a little bit before we go and leave you in a good mood. I used to do this as a teacher. I used to always end off on a light note with a joke, just to have the kids walk out in a good mood. So let's do it with our audience. It is now time for our fun SEO send-off question. Ready for it?
Yeah.
This is a good one. I had another one planned, and this one just like smacked me in the face, but I hope this is a great one. All right. You ready?
Yeah, I'm ready. I have no idea what to expect.
Okay. What already existing movie title could also double as a title for a piece of SEO content?
Oh, God.
What already existing movie title could also double as the title for a piece of SEO content?
Okay, am I
what do you
answering
think?
This?
Yeah, I'm going to 10. 9.
No.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay, the Adam Sandler movie Click.
Ooh.
As in how many clicks your site gets. Yeah.
Ooh, that's
Yeah?
good.
Pretty good.
That was good. I did not.
Yeah.
I had this all week and I was working on that. Is not bad. Clicks.
Thank you.
That's
It's
the
a
one
good
with the remote
movie.
control thing.
Yeah. It's a lot sadder than you think it is. You know, you think Adam Sandler is gonna be hilarious, and you end up walking out with like tears.
Really?
Yeah, it's a sad one.
I'm
I don't know if
Are you
it's equivalent
putting-
to your pug, story, but Click is pretty. It's
I saw Click. I don't
pretty
remember crying.
intense. Oh,
I don't remember.
I was bawling.
I've cried at Adam Sandler movies like, oh my God, when is this over? I'm crying. Get me
Oh,
out of
God.
here. His later
No,
stuff,
definitely.
particularly.
It's a
Okay.
good one.
Mine. Ready?
Yeah, let's hear yours.
Going 80s. Over the top. You know the Stallone movie from the 80s about arm wrestling? You know, it's a quality movie. I'm going to cheat and modify it a bit for my SEO article. Over the top. The story of featured snippets. Get it? Get it? Over the top? Because they're position 0. Featured snippets are over the top.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Okay.
Good one. Good one.
Oh, boy. All right. Send us your movie title so we can maybe give us something better than over the top. Let us know
Or Click.
No, Clicks was good.
Thank
Clicks was
you.
good.
Thank you.
Tell us. Reach out to us on Twitter. Email us. What already existing movie title could also double as a title for a piece of SEO content? And that'll do it for us. Oh, before we go, Beta Blitz. I'm still plugging that. We're still plugging that because it's out soon. Actually, by the time you hear this, it may already be out. So, Jacqueline, tell them what they've won.
You've won a new car.
And you get a car. And you get a car.
You wish. But better than a new car, Beta Blitz is on its way with new analytics, revamped tools, metrics, and much more.
Ooh, that's good.
Yeah.
Yep. And that'll do it for us. Look out
right.
for the next episode of In Search, due out a week from Tuesday. Every Tuesday, In Search, we make SEO small talk and we make it happening. All right. That'll do it for me, Morty Oberstein and Jacqueline Harcum. Be kind and rewind.
Thank you.